David, how's the summer going, brother?
It's going great, Moose. Good morning, Moose and Kim. How are you guys doing?
We're good, Dave. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. I'm outside, a little beautiful day here before I think we get that big storm tonight, so got to get the workout in early.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
Dave, when you look at this team, this Giant team, because we've had some calls here, Kim and I have talked a little bit about it as well. This year for Jones, make or break year for sure. What do you expect here for Daniel Jones, year 3 as Giants quarterback?
Well, obviously, the big thing that you're looking for is number one, that clock in his head to go off and where you're not seeing the pressure, you're feeling it, and you can move and adapt and adjust yourself in the pocket. But also, I think we all know that ball security is job security when it comes to the quarterback position. Tucking that football away and making sure that if it's second down, you don't have a throw. Don't force anything and live for third down and play the next play. I think that's the big thing that I'm looking for out of Daniel Jones. Obviously, him coming into now this second year in the offense with Jason Garrett and actually having an offseason will definitely benefit him. Not to mention the skilled position weapons with Kenny Galladay and Kadarius Toney coming into the fold. I think that this can be an amazing year for the Giants offensively, and it all has to go through number 26, Saquon Barkley. When a lot of people ask me, can you compare Daniel Jones in his second year to Eli Manning? Well, in Eli Manning's second year, Tiki Barber ran for 1,800 yards. I think that helps to transition when you're in that position and when you're trying to play complementary football to the rest of the team. So I think those are the big things that I'm looking forward for. Ball security, not having those key takeaways, and more importantly, just being more consistent leading this team and getting themselves in the right checks and audibles in those key football situational periods that they need to moving forward in 2021.
Dave, I had 3 chances to be around football people this offseason at 3 different pro days I attended. And I asked the folks I know best at the different pro days about Daniel Jones. And what a lot of them went to was pocket presence. And I said, how much can you improve that? And the answers were across the board. No one thinks you can 100% improve it. They certainly believe you can improve it. There's some folks who think, you kind of are what you are. And there are others who think that's truly innate and very difficult to improve. What do you see when you watch Daniel and his sometimes inability to sense or feel a rush?
I think that's something that they definitely talked about and worked through this offseason. I know watching myself in practice when the quarterbacks would go into individual drills, they were working on those exact drills, stepping up, moving back, having that feeling in the pocket. A lot of people using almost like the jousting things when he was dropping back in his pocket, going to attack the football, trying to strip it out of his hands, making sure he has 2 hands on the football. But also, a lot of that does go with the offensive line. You've got to think about last year, 2 starters on the left side of the offensive line for more than half of the season were rookies. When we talk about Andrew Thomas and Shane Lemieux, and Nick Gates starting his first time at center. So I think that's one of the biggest things, and that's one of the biggest question marks about this Giants team and the competition battles that they have at the left guard, the right guard, and the right tackle position between Will Hernandez, Shane Lemieux, and Zach Fulton to be able to fill those voids at the guard position. And then obviously Matt Parrott at that right tackle spot competing with Nate Solder, who opted out because of COVID last year. I think Parrott had some great experience last year. I think when he had the ankle injury down the stretch, it really hampered some of his techniques and fundamentals, but he showed his toughness to stick through it. So I think that's one of the biggest things that we're going to have to watch and evaluate throughout training camp, getting prepared for the regular season, is the offensive line has obviously got to gel together and play much better than they did last year. I believe that Andrew Thomas will be much better with an offseason under his belt and all the experience that he received last year. I mean, when you're thrown into the fire like he was at left tackle with no offseason, it's not going to be the prettiest thing. But the one thing that I love that I saw out of him, he made sure that he was making corrections when in terms of his techniques and fundamentals. I never saw him shy away from the contact and physicality of it. And he's one of those players that has the desire to be one of the best in the league. So I think that's where this offensive line has to come together in 2021 so that all of us can get a full, fair assessment of where Daniel Jones is and if he's actually the franchise quarterback for the New York Giants moving forward.
David, love to see it, because how many years have we been talking about the offensive line for the Giants and how bad the play has been, sporadic as the play has been. You mentioned that that's a storyline you're going to be following throughout the course of training camp. I guess your gut feel right now, do you think that offensive line will be good enough, will be solid enough, will be less of a talking point of what they're not in 2021?
I definitely think that they'll be better than they were in 2020. I definitely think that they're going to take a big step forward, and I think that's where part of the scheme fit of what the Giants need to do in 2021 needs to be complementary to the offensive line. I think anybody watching Giants games in 2020 saw that there were certain games individually that Jason Garrett had to pull back some of the reins to contain and hopefully protect some of the insufficiencies of the offensive line that they had last year. But I think going out and getting the deep threat in Kenny Golladay on the outside to stretch it vertically, I think that when you get Kadarius Toney, who is an absolute matchup nightmare and who's a guy who can take either a jet sweep or a 5-yard slant to the house and has that home run hitting ability, those are all things that are going to help this offensive line. Because when you think about it, if the offensive line isn't having an effective run game, one of the biggest things to break that up and to confuse the defense is misdirection and deception. Some pre-snap movements, some jet sweeps. We saw them try to do it last year with Evan Ingram, but we know that that's not his forte. So that's why I think Kadarius Toney really fills that void. Not to mention, as I said earlier, Saquon Barkley coming back hungrier than ever. I think we're going to see the same type of performance out of him that we saw in his rookie season.
Well, and the Giants used pre-snap movement, about the least in the league last year. So I would assume that they would use that more. Dave, why did Will Hernandez, who was a Dave Gettleman pick, so it wasn't from the former administration, why has Will Hernandez kind of fallen out of favor?
Well, I think that when you look at last year after he started the first 7 games and tested positive for COVID and then was held out, I think you saw a player in Shane Lemieux, who's a game day guy, step up and really man that role at left guard. One of the things that we know out of Shane Lemieux is, just like Will Hernandez, when they get their hands in the ground and it's the run game, they're road graders. But some of the things that both of those guys need to work on moving forward in 2021 is pass protection when you're not having the ability to jump set and be aggressive with a 3-technique defensive tackle. I think that Will Hernandez has slimmed down. I think that he's took a little bit of that bulk off and has become a little bit more athletic with the stamina. And I think Shane Lemieux this entire offseason has really spent time really honing in on the hand placement, being able to use multiple hands when you're punching and not only relying on a jump set. Those are all things that will make those guys better in this season. And I think that's what's the great thing about when we're watching this competition with the offensive line between the guard spots. You want to get the most out of your players and you want to see them become the best that they can be, have a competition, and that's what they're going to have this training camp.
David, are you optimistic about the Giants this year?
I really am. I think that it's an exciting time. I love the additions that they made during the offseason and the draft. I think that one of the sleepers on this team that not a lot of people are talking about, Xavier McKinney. I mean, we're talking about a player who was drafted last year, obviously had, the fractured foot, so was held out until week 12. He's going to be an integral part of this defense with Patrick Graham. And I think that that's one of the most exciting things to look about this team overall. When you look at the roster, there's a lot of players that can have breakout seasons and emerge as guys that are going to really make a difference when it comes down to the fourth quarter and those 2-minute drives. And I think that Xavier McKinney is one of those guys.
All right, David, Monday, before we get, to training camps going, you've got a big golf event. So
I do.
So, David, how good? We had Smoltz on yesterday, who was basically like a scratch golfer, right?
Oh, he's amazing.
David, how good of a golfer are you?
You know what? I'm not a great golfer. I'm a guy that if I get 3 hours, the last thing that I'm going to go do is just jump on a golf course. But when I do play, when it comes from a driver to like my 6 or 7 iron, I'm okay. But from that point forward, from like my 7 to my wedges, somebody says swing the club 50%, 60%. I can't do that. Either I'm swinging full or it's not, that's all you're getting. So on Monday, I'm really looking forward to it. We're having our Clara Moss Medical Center golf outing right in New Jersey, in Summit, New Jersey at Canoe Brook Country Club. I love doing this because it directly affects Clara Moss Medical Center, which is in Belleville, New Jersey, less than 10 miles away from Giant Stadium. And I love the fact that these are the same communities and the same people that supported me during my career as a player and still support me till today. So the fact that I'm able to have this charity golf outing on Monday, bring people together, have some fun outside, and raise money for a great cause that's going to directly affect the people that made my transition to New Jersey one of the greatest ones that I could have. It's an unbelievable experience.
Well, David, tremendous. It's fantastic. And you're helping out, certainly, Clara Mass, tremendous, helping them out. Great charity event. I'll see you out there on Monday. We're going to do a little football talk Monday night, right?
Yeah, we're going to do a little chalk talk after it and do some question and answer. And if anybody out there wants to get some information and if they're around and want to golf, all they have to do is go to claragolf.org. CLARAGOLF.org.
There
Awesome.
you go.
You have to come on the fan afterwards and tell us what a great golfer Moose is.
Oh, I'm not playing.
Absolutely. I'd love to call out his game.
Hey, David,
That's perfect.
have a good event on Monday.
Yep,
We appreciate
absolutely.
the time, all right?
Thank you very much, guys. Talk to you guys soon.
You got it. David Diehl. He's got a good event on Monday.
That's nice.